To start recording, we'll fire down. Okay guys, welcome to another session, mentoring platform. What we are doing today is Git. We already shared a Git video which talks about introduction to Git, your first step beginner's guide into Git. And from everything, the video looks fairly straightforward. And then I'll put the link in the description below if you want to go and look at that video again. So what we'll be doing is that video already introduced what Git is. So by now you should know what Git is. It's a place to you put your code for versioning and what have you. And I'm not so sure if I talked about the history and whatnot. Got those days when we were coding, our code used to be in Dropbox. In fact, before Dropbox, we ship code via email. We zip it and then we version it, right? So a lot of things, we've gone a long way from zipping code to saving it in Dropbox. Again, Dropbox is a file sharing platform, not necessarily a code sharing, file sharing. So then we now have Git. So Git is a technology for saving versioning, for you to have different version of your codes at all points. And I also mentioned some terminologies which I will try to list out, because I'll be using those terminology a lot, and it's good for you to be versatile with those terminologies. So I'll be using commit, I'll be using push, pull. I might not use some things like fetch, but I'm using push, pull, commit, branch. There's something they also call git flow. I don't think I talked about git flow in the video. I'm not so sure I did talk about it, but I will use this opportunity to emphasize on it in case I didn't cover it. So if there are any new words that come up, I will also mention it, above. So these words were defined in the video, and I will define it again so that it will help us for people using this for the first time. So commit is like to save what you've done. So look at commit as to save, and push is to send to repo. So I'll use repo means repository, like send to store or to your storage platform, right? So look at this one as let me use the word send to cloud. So you're keeping a copy. So your commit is save locally, while this one is save to cloud, and pull is to get latest commits. Well, I don't want you to say get latest push. So this one will get the latest thing that someone else did. And by the way, the whole idea of Git is not just for you alone. And if you get to work in different environments, or you get a gig, you get a job, with other companies, the idea is that there are high chances that you'll be working in teams or groups. So that means that you should be able to work on different files. So somebody might have done something that you want to get, right? And that's what happens when you pull. You can push, someone else can pull, and they get the latest thing that has been committed. Okay, so branch is like a what is the better word for it? It's like you creating a separate folder that contains all the code, and then you go ahead and be doing your things, So let's say create a copy of your project. So I'm trying to use simple words, right, that will guide you and not put in all the jargons into the whole thing. Why Git flow is more of like a let's say it's a workflow. Let's say a workflow to guide I won't say develop. Yeah, let me say development. Development. So Git flow is like what guide, what practice that you've deployed in your organization to guide how you want to be writing code with other people, and we're going to touch base on it. So these are like the things we'll be looking at. Okay, let's look at the application we'll be using. And for me, even though Visual Studio Code has that facility, it has facility to handle your Git stuff, which is here. I would not be using it for, there's a workflow that I use to help me manage this, and I will try and much as possible explain the workflow that I use so that you guys can also mimic and copy from that. Let's go to GitHub and see what GitHub has to offer. This is GitHub site, and by now you should be familiar with what it is. You should already have had your handle by now. You should already have had your handle or your own name. So very important, guys. Even if you are not coding, you're not doing anything, just make sure you have your own username. So my own username is this one on top here. So sometimes it's very confusing to know your own username from this other thing. So just use something nice, something you can relate to. So that's my own username, and it will be needed when you are doing some stuff. When people will ask for your username, just give them that name, and that's what they will use to search you up for. So look at GitHub as a social media for developers, right? GitHub is like a social media for developers. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Okay, guys, let's move on. Go ahead, please. Do you have any question? Okay. Okay, so I was attending to someone. Now let's move on, guys. Now that we have our accounts created, and obviously I have several projects on my name or attached to my name, and like I mentioned, there are several things that GitHub has to offer. You cannot scratch the surface for now. There are several things. So it allows you to publish your own personal self out there, put your own personal self out there. Yeah, allow you to put your personal self out there. You can see all my details, all my activities, and whatnot. So you can sit back and even try and get the sense of what's going on GitHub. This is not coding, by the way. This is not coding yet, but this is an environment that allows you to, keep your code. So very important. For you guys that don't have a project yet, I believe you can go and sit down and start loading all this. Put your picture, set your details, all your parameters, put them there. Then we'll start with project later. Now here are my repository. So repo, I call them repo for short. So these are like my repo. I have 14 repo. These are, I guess, my public repos, but most of what I do are private, obviously. So when you work with companies, there will be repos that they will invite you to join. So those repos will be private, obviously, so people will not be able to see them online. Of course, I can see my private and public repo because it's my account. Okay, so we can't go into talking about all the repo personally. These are things that I've done, tests, play around with and what have you, which you should also do. So there are several ways in which you can create a repo. You can create a repo from your local system, or create it here and then take it locally, which I think I did in the video. So I'm not going to cover that anymore. I just want to talk about the operation. You can create a new repo right away, like a new project. So repo is like technically like a project. even though they have another thing called project on the system, but I just like to use the word project. So this is your, your name, like I mentioned, your brand name, whatever it is you want to call yourself, and then whatever project you want to do. So if you want to build the next AI platform or the next storage system, you can just do that here. So let's say you can just do anything here. That would be the name of your repo. So if you go, global, this is the name that people will use to do stuff or to reach to you. And this is unique to your name. So you can say you want to ReactJS, your own version of ReactJS, right? And then it's only available to you because this has created a namespace. Namespace is something that allows you to be able to does not bring uniqueness or bring uniqueness to name, namespace. Somebody that is already taking ReactJS, so you can't take it again. So but this ReactJS now is just tied to you, so you can go crazy and duplicate any code you want to create. So maybe you want to create your own flavor of ReactJS, and that's fine. Okay, so this is just creating a new project, and if you do create a new project, you can then connect it to your system. I believe we also talked about that. And let's go ahead. This has already been done. I already have a project, and remember I said we're going to be using Edge, right, as our project to be using to do a test. So I think I have it here. And by the way, I also created organizational stuff, because Git is not just for what I've explained. It does a lot of things. So I also have my company on Git, and then you can see the company products that I have and what have you. So you can see the difference. This is me as a human being or as an entity or as a person. I have like a package called GoSend, and as a company, right, I also have projects. All these projects are private, by the way, so you can't see it. They are just private to me because I run them. So this is also private, but I'll be using it to do all our tests. So I call it Edge, Office Lime Edge. So because I'm part of this company, I can push code into Office Lime Edge. And that's what I'm trying to, explain to you, that you need to know Git. Because when you are working for a company, guess what? 99% or 95% of companies is Git. And by the way, we also have other platforms, not just GitHub alone. We have GitLab, we have other stuff. This is just one of them, and GitHub happens to be the majority that people use. So if I open this repo, right, this is the repository. We're not going to go through all that. Now there are some terminologies or some things you can do. Because I have these assets, I can copy or clone the repo. So cloning is making a copy for myself so that I can make commit, push, pull into it. That's the idea. And there are several ways in which you can clone it. You can either use HTTPS or SSH. So I recommend using SSH. So if you, and I was hoping that you guys have questions so I can treat all these things, but it looks like you guys are cool. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. Now this one is what is available, we're going to be using, and I have it locally here already. So we're good to go. Now this is VS Code. Technically all my codes are here. Now I use two platforms to push my details. I use this AI parts to make to come up with, whenever you want to make a commit, you have to put like a text to it. You have to say what it is that you did, so that when you are posting it, it makes sense to people that are reading it to know what changed. Okay, so let's go ahead to see the second tool. The second tool is called fork.dev, right? I mentioned it in the video, which I'm sure you already have installed. So if we check it out, you will see it there. So this is like a clone. It's already available in VS Code, but I rather use this than go and struggle with VS Code. There's a reason. Maybe in other videos or other lessons or other classes, I'll talk about the reason why I use this one specifically. Okay, But let's go ahead and see it in action. This is it here, and it's already available here. So we have it here, even though it's tiny. Just bear with me, please. I know it's tiny, but so what is the purpose of this? There are several sections which I want you guys to pay attention to. I'll be taking my time to talk about the Git stuff. That's the IDE for what's happening here. Now, I will stress it outside here. So I will go outside this place to explain some things. I have Git flow enabled by default. What is Git flow? I tried to explain Git flow in simple terms. I said it's a guide that is something that guides my development. So it's a guide that describes my development. Git flow is something that describes or that helps me, write code in the way I want to go, like to plan my flow on how my code get to the repo. Okay, so how does Git flow works? Git flow works by specifying different branches. So what are the branches that are available in Git flow? We have the main branch. We have the develop branch, and we have future branch, which can have maybe version 0.1 or something. This one is another story entirely. Versioning system. This one can have something like this. So normally it's supposed to be something like so. Then we now have something we'll call, okay, let me make it separate. So we now have what we call, we have release. Okay, it's already doing it for me. Then we have hotfix. Okay, so let's explain this thing gradually, one after the other. Remember, we're in Git flow now. Git flow is how you plan your traits to get into the repo. That's just the basic breakdown of the whole thing. Now, what does your main branch does? Remember I said what branch is? It creates a copy of your project. That's what it is. So the AI is even helping me explain it to you guys. So production ready code. Your main houses the production, houses your production ready code. So let's go to the app so that I will show you what's happening here. So you can see I should have provided a zoom so that you guys can see zoom. So maybe in the lens class, I will make the zoom available so that you can see what I'm looking at. Notice on here you have branches, and then inside you have main. So main houses my production ready code that is running in production. And if you look at this section here on the right hand side, immediately you click on any of the branch, it shows you where you are in the code. Okay, so let's move on. You can mute your section. So let's go ahead. Now, the next part I want to talk about is so whenever you click here, you get to see the results on the right hand side, right? So, and here gives you all the commits that you've done. These are individual commitments that you've done. Okay, so the main branch houses your production code. The develop, let me see what AI will say. Okay, it's not helping me. Houses development code, like what you are currently working on, things that changes every time, right? So houses your development code. Why the future houses something that individual persons can handle, or individual smaller team. Let's say you are building an HR application, which I'm building, and I can say, oh, Shegun, you handle version, I won't call this version 1 now, for example. Let's say a particular feature, and that feature is supposed to be appraiser module, right? I can say this person, Shegun, should handle it. Or team Shegun, let me just say team Shegun should handle it, right? I can have another module or another version of it, and I call this one leave, and I say team Chika should handle it. So this is what's going on, right? So these are features of your application and it's a branch. Okay, so let's see an example of that. So if I come to, okay, so what will happen is that, this is recorded, so you can just bear with me. You will see it in the live when you watch the recording again. So maybe it's network from your end, but it's something that will get to be visible once, it's been produced or it's been deployed. Okay, let's continue what we are doing. Now, the next one, okay, I wanted to show you a preview of how this one looks like. Like I said, if you're not seeing it now, you will get to see it when you're watching the recording. The next one is here, and these are the features. Do you see? You can't actually click the feature. The feature is like a subfolder. So you can't click the feature, but you can see the subfolder in it. Currently, the way I name my branches are very funny. Yeah, I enjoy it. So I give it the version name and then like a guy name in the front. But you can use something like this as well. The reason why something like this will not be attainable is that, well, it's not as if it's not attainable, because you can create the next version of your leave and increment this version, so it's possible. But anything that you do is okay. You can use a guy name. What I use here is I just use a guy name here to just make it different and also fun for me to work with. So here I'm using I think Naruto character name on 3.0. Okay, so let's go to edge, the edge I wanted to use. Okay, so here this Hanita, this is also another Naruto character, right? So this is version 0.1, and I want to use this to demonstrate because we're going to create a release. We're going to create a release here. That's why I want us to use as an example. Okay, so on top you can see that I have several projects opened, right? So this is the one that we're actually using, and I only have one feature. I've not created several features, or I've not been creating several things. You can see the one that have several stuffs going on for it. So this project has been on for like several years, like almost 5 to 6 years. So this one is barely a year, right? So a lot of things has gone on. So you can also see when it was started. I think it started last year September. So this is when the initial commit was done, and that's the good thing about Git. You get to see the history. You can go and look at the first code you wrote, and track the changes as those code happen or as those changes occur. Those are the benefits of having all these things in place. So I was talking about this. Now the next one is release. So this is in preparation for the new version. So how's this code ready for release? That's fair enough. So this one is to fix houses ready code for immediate no, this is wrong. So this is for a emergency bug fix. Yep. So I'll put it this way. Now this pattern is for something that is already running in production and needs emergency rectification. You have something that you've run in production, or are running in production, and then suddenly there's a bug that you discovered. How do you fix it? You have to create a hotfix. So we're going to demonstrate virtually everything. We'll try as much as possible to demonstrate all what is here. Now, how do you juggle all these guys? Main, develop, feature, releases, hotfix. How do you juggle all these things? So let me show you how it works. So this is how you juggle it. First of all, when you start a new project, you start with main. Then you now tell your Git application, which is here, you tell it that you want to enable Git flow. Very, very important. So you enable Git flow. So this is very important for all this to work. And by the way, this has now become standard over time. So once you enable, by default, you have main. So immediately you enable Git flow, what do you think happens? The system or the environment will create this branch for you called develop automatically. So it will clone what is in main and put it inside develop. For people that are just starting, what they just do is they sit on this develop and write all their development code and develop and write all their development, which is not bad. And at the end, when they are done with developing, what do? They merge it back to main. They merge it back to main. Okay, I did not explain what merge is. So merge is to combine your code from one branch to other branch so that you can continue the work that you're doing. Okay, remember I said I want to explain everything, so I'm going to explain everything like real life stuff. Okay, so you have this, your main, your develop, and the next thing is that let's use our project. I've already created the main. That's the default that comes with it. Your develop, immediately you initiate your Git flow, your develop comes with it. Then the next thing is you have to initiate a new feature. You have to do what? Initiate a new feature. So let's assume we want to do a new feature now. We'll come to the tab and specify. Once you come here, you can just right click anywhere on it. You will see Git flow. This is Git flow. I know it's tiny, but just bear with me. It's Git flow. And the next thing you go is you have several options to do. We're going to address all the options. So if you are just doing a feature for the first time, you say start feature because it's the first time you are doing feature. So once you do that, it will ask you what's the name of the feature. Remember, we'll talk about the naming. My own naming convention is this. I put a V and version number. So version number is another thing entirely. So version numbering, in fact, it's a whole course on its own. So AI has helped me try to explain it to you. This one here is major release. When you have a single, so it's always in three phases like this, 3 phases, right? 3, you have 1, 2, 3. So, and each of them have meaning. So the last one is bug fixes. You fix a bug. The second one is you have a new feature, and the first one is that there's a new release. So very important. So versioning is done this way, and this is not cast on stone. You have other people that use 4, right? So then the most popular one is 3, like this: major release, feature, and then hotfix, fixing of bugs. So let's get to see how that translates into what I'm trying to do. And the reason for this thing is that it's good to maintain best practices, because that also shows that you know what you are doing, or you are learned or you are experienced. That's the right word. Okay, so I can do, because I'm still doing 0.1, then I do points like I'm still version 0. That's what I mean. This is not the latest version yet, so I'm in version 0. So I do 0.1 means that's my first feature. So if I want to do the next feature now, that will be 0.2, and then I can give it a guy name, just like I said. I can give it a guy name here just to make it fun, instead of me just looking at numbers. Okay, so once you've done that, you continue. So we're going to do the hotfix later. Now that is how I got this one here, v0.1 dash guy. Now, how do I say I'm done with what I'm doing? Before I said I'm done what I'm doing, let me show you how to commit. Even I showed it in the video, but before we can commit, we need to write a code that is committable. There's no code I can commit for now, but let me just commit this funny code. Even though I've not finished writing the code, this one was generated by AI. I've not even scratched the surface of the code, but for lack of nothing to commit, let me just commit it like that. Okay, so I have 3 things I want to commit. I just come to here. So that will show you how I use this, my tool. That will give you an idea how I use my AI to make things very smart for me. So what I do is that I come here, I select what I want to commit, and you can commit individually. You don't have to commit everything at the same time. You commit related things. So I commit this guy, I commit everything, And I can say, oh, this is what I just did, blah 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 blah, and this can be boring and can be time wasting because you have to crack your head and say, oh, what code did I even write here that I want to commit? So you have to think about it and write the code. But thank God for this AI. In fact, this thing has really helped my life. I just click it once and it goes to read all this code and write exactly what it is that I'm trying to achieve inside here. Simple. Now, why do we need this? Why is this helpful? This is helpful when you're coming back to read your code in the future. I say this all the time. You spend more time reading your code than writing it. You spend more time reading your code, or let me put it this way. You will spend more time reading your code than writing it. So very important. So documentation cannot be overemphasized. So now that I've generated the code, or rather the comments that says what I'm trying to achieve here, you can read it, something that makes sense. And if you're not happy with what it has done, you can regenerate it again, to give you another thing, just to spice it up. And you can delete, you can rename. These are just English stuff. You can rephrase it to meet what it is you want it to meet if you are not happy with what's doing here. Now that it has done, you commit. Remember what I said commit is? Commit is making a local change or saving it locally on your system. So I committed and that's it. So the next thing it's asking me to do is, well, it's calling it sync, but normally what it's supposed to say is push. You can see it on the bottom. Push one commit to origin. That's push it to the repo online. That's what it's trying to say. Now, I don't use my IDE to push. I use this guy to push. Yeah. So you can see that it's waiting for me here to get pushed. So I just come here and click push. There's a push button on top and that sends it online. Now, let's assume that I'm done with the feature. I'm done with feature 0.1 and I want to, so let's go back to the story here and how it works. So we were talking about this section, versioning and everything. I think I've explained versioning. The next part I want to talk about is the future. Remember that I did not even talk anything about develop, right? It's very important. Just stay with me. The next part is future, which you now know how to create. You now know how to create. So future comes as a subfolder. Yeah, something like this. So, and I'm gonna do 0. Let's assume we're in 0.1, and we just call it whatever name we call it there. Here. Now, if you are finished with this branch, you've written a lot of code like I have written here. If you see under this branch, I've written all this code. Notice that you have only, well, one line from here to here. Look at this orange line. It's like straight. So these are the commits done on that particular branch. I've done way lots on it. Now at this point, I think I've finished version 0.1. I need to say I'm done. How do you do that? You right click here and you say git flow. You do finish. It's here. Where is it? Yeah, finish this. So once you hit finish, it's gonna give you all this to just say finish. Well, it's saying you should delete the branch locally, but it's safe. But you can leave it undeleted so that you can always reference to it. But it's already online, so most times what option it gives you is always good. But I'm just gonna not delete it. So I click finish. Once I click finish, what happens? It's put it into develop. There's no way for me to show you what's happening here. So when you finish, so I'm just gonna put it in the form of notes and say, when you finish your future, it merges into branch. So that's what happened. Immediately you finish your future, the code, all the code here merges to where? To your develop. So you can see the work of develop now. You can see where develop handy. So most times, well, all the time, you don't really write code directly in develop. Develop kind of hold all the changes that has happened. Remember, this is just one person. or a team. Another team can be working on something else, and they will what, when they finish it, where does it go to? It goes to develop. So develop will be collecting all the things that has been going on, in the entire organization, housing it. Remember, your main is production, and nothing is, touching it for now. Okay, we are done with future. What's the next thing that we do? The next thing we do, I see your comment. I'm going to address all these comments later once I've finished the class. I'm going to read out the comments and address them. So let's go back to, and because we didn't delete it, it's here. Notice that automatically the new default branch is now develop. So if there were more future, you could have closed it, or anybody would have closed it. The next thing that happens when you have your branches merged to develop is to create a release. That's where this guy comes in, release. So release is in the preparation to create or to push to production. That is the purpose of a release, to prepare and push it to what? To the main branch. So let's see how that is done. If I click on, right click on develop and click on git flow, you will see several options, 3 options. Even though it's tiny, I'll just read them out. It says start future. Well, you can as well go ahead and create a new future again and continue the whole circle. Start release. That's what we want to do. We want to start a new release. Now, how is release written? I already did something on that stuff. Let me try and undo to bring out those story I wrote the other time. So this is release. Release is this way. It carries the versioning. The first value there carries the versioning. So let's go ahead and see how that is done. So I start with V1. It's not going to be V0 again, because it was V0 before in the future. So this release is going to be our first version 1, right? And then I'm going to do version 1.0. Well, you can do version 1.0, but I'll just maintain this. And you can give your release a name. You can say Bugs Bunny. Who knows Bugs Bunny? Okay, so I can say Bugs Bunny. That can be my, is that the spelling of Bugs Bunny? Yeah, that's spelling, Bugs Bunny. Okay, so that can be my release name, and then I start release. Immediately you do that, it creates the branch. Notice what is happening. It has created the directory called release. Inside it, it creates a branch called version 1.0 Bugs Bunny. So let's repeat that there. So we'll have our release, and here it's called Bugs Bunny. So it has gone ahead to say what we need to do. So, but let me tell you what's happening. Now, when we finish this Bugs Bunny, what it does is that it merges it into production. Remember, our Bugs Bunny derive its value or its content from develop. So whenever you create a release, it copies everything inside develop and put it in the release. So what happens in your release? What happens in the release state is that you do testing. This is where the code ships to the testers, people that are going to test. For large organization, obviously they will have QA testers and what have you. At that release stage, this is where those testers get to work to check everything, if everything is working well, all the new feature that you added, if it's doing what it says it should do and whatnot. If not, they will raise an alarm, and let's say there's an alarm that got raised and something is not working the way it's supposed to work. So let me make a code change. Remember, we are now inside release. That's where we are now. So if you make a code change to this, so I'm just going to make a code change. Let's say something was identified and it's not working the way it's supposed to work. So let me change this to 9, because actually my own system is 9. I'm just changing one particular thing, even though I would love to review generated with AI. So Now that we've made a new change to it, we can just go and commit our change and then push. So this is the new change that we did. Just change the character. And if I try to allow AI to help me with the whole thing, so you can see it's created a well-documented stuff for me, and then I commit. Okay, so I have to click here to select what I want to commit, then commit it. So I can come back to my here and I will see my new commit. So let's assume all things being equal and the feature has been tested by our QAs and everything is fine. The next thing is to finish our release. So I come here, and by the way, I've not pushed. You can push if you want to. I just come here and I do what I call git flow. It's already waiting there for us. It's called finish release. So once I click it, of course, it's going to ask you all these questions. You can put notes and what have you. The branch becomes useless. It's not needed. So I can delete the branch and merge master into develop. Now, the word master used to be main, used to be master before. I don't know why they change it from master to main, but this is what they are trying to say. Merge main into develop. Okay, so I can finish everything now. So I will explain what happens when we finish. Now, when you finish, let's go to this part so that you can get the explanation. When you finish your release, it merges into main branch and develop branch. Why? Because during the time that we did this, we make an adjustment. We adjusted something. And if we do not merge back into develop, we won't have a copy of the most recent stuff. So that's why the system merged back into release, or rather merged back into develop and main. And that closes the circle. And that circle continues, right? It continues. So let's see what we have in this part. Now, automatically, we now have 148 commits that needs to go to our main, because we've been doing all our code in this branch. If you read all this, that's like 140 something commits that has been done. So main now, our release has been merged into main now, and then we need to push all this to main. So that is done, and the server will now be updated with the most recent activity. We will not cover Git action for now. Git action are activities that happen, in the backend. That's more under DevOps. So that part is still far a little bit because there's a lot in Git. So this part is DevOps, which I will just point you to it just to spark up your interest in what is going on. Now, this is the actions that are taking place inside, your app. So look at what is happening. You can see that this operation is happening. We are trying to deploy to the server. So this merging tag, this is what we just created now, and we said it should merge into develop back. So these are activities. These are just today, right? This is the backup we did. This is the merge. This is a full course on its own. DevOps. I'm sure you've been hearing the word DevOps. Yeah. So this is a glimpse of what DevOps looks like, and this that it automates your process of you pushing your code to development, or rather your code to production. Yep. It's does testing if need be. It does quality checks if need be, push to your server. There's a lot that can be accomplished using this. I wrote a script, and that script does what it's supposed to do in terms of what I think I want it to do. We won't have explaining to that part of the mentorship. We'll cover this session in details. But what I would just want this class to be all about is talking about the basis of Git, which I believe we have understood by now. We can then go into start testing our own code and making sure that we follow these practices. Very important. follow this to the letter. You will not understand now until you start working with teams. When you start working in teams, you will get the idea of, oh, why you should commit what you've done. Remember I told you definition for commit that I gave you is saving your code locally. A milestone, saving milestone that you've gotten to. So let me see comments, and if you guys have comments, you can let me know your comments, or rather your questions. So I'm going to read question 9 so that to also make the whole thing rich. If you have a question, you can post it, or you can interrupt me at some point. So let me see the questions here. So 2026, someone is asking if they need a laptop to be able to do what we're doing. Yes, you need a laptop. Even though GitHub has a mobile app, yeah, you should also check it out. GitHub has a mobile app, so you can go and download it. It helps you to visualize a lot of things faster. Okay, so I'm trying to read comments that is pertaining to what we are doing. Okay, someone say as a pen tester, you have to have a customized agent. Okay, that's not related to what we're doing. So guys, I'm expecting questions from you guys. Okay, I don't have any solid questions online, right? There's no question here that is talking to exactly what we want to see. So if there's no question, oh, okay, so yeah, someone added a contribution. Say the change is from master to main to avoid language related to slavery. Okay, so okay, yeah, I didn't know why they changed it. So this used to be called master before, which makes sense, right? Calling it main. So this used to become master, and that's why when I was going through, you see master in Git, the IDE. So anytime you see master, it's still the same thing as main. So someone just posted why it was like that now. Let me see other questions that are here, or contribution that are here. Yes, of course, you can use ChatGPT to write script. Okay guys, I think that will be it for tonight. That will be it for tonight. So